So since becoming a father, I have become a student of longevity. I want to be a part of my kids' lives for as long as possible. And similar to what I did when I grew my hair out and learned about hair growth and hair care, when I become obsessed with something, I go all in. I do all the research, I scour all the forums, I read as many studies as I can, I listen to as many experts as I can, and I apply as much of it as I can to my life. And I become a student again, and it's really fun to become a student again. So I'm making a video about it. Now, I don't claim to be an expert, obviously. I'm well aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect, so I will do my best not to approach this from an expert's mindset and instead approach it from a student's mindset. Share what I've learned so far, what I've applied to my life, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And you can feel free to take this advice or use it to do more research of your own. And the last note before diving into this, I realize there are a ton of levels of this whole longevity protocol world, right? There's on a scale of, losing a little bit of weight all the way to Brian Johnson's extreme longevity protocols. I'm doing kind of in the middle, right? I'm a busy dad, I work full time, I have a limited budget and limited resources, so I'm doing what I can with what I have. So this video is gonna be 3 parts. We're gonna talk about skincare and slowing down the photo-aging process of the skin. We'll talk about diet and fitness. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about supplements. So let's start with skincare. The 2 main things that I do in my skincare routine to slow down photo-aging and sort of increase collagen production are daily SPF and tretinoin. Now, daily SPF is something I didn't used to consider. I don't know why. It's so obvious that protecting your face daily from UV exposure is vital for slowing down skin photoaging. So now I apply it every single morning after I cleanse and after I put on a peptide serum. The second thing that I've been incorporating is at night, I've been applying tretinoin. Now, you might have heard the word retinol in any skincare video you've seen online, right? It's a very common name, and tretinoin is the more active form. So they all belong to the retinoid family. And the anti-aging research on retinoids are excellent. For example, they're fantastic at boosting collagen production, which helps reduce the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. They help your skin look firmer and more youthful. They speed up cell turnover rate, which can improve the texture and tone of your skin and make it look smoother and more even. They can help get rid of sunspots and dark spots by encouraging growth of new, evenly pigmented cells. And they can improve elasticity, which helps reduce sagging skin. And over time, this makes your skin more resilient and less susceptible to things like sun damage or environmental stressors. Now, retinol and tretinoin are both forms of retinoids, but they differ in strength and how quickly they work. So retinol is a milder over-the-counter option that your skin first has to convert into retinoic acid. This is the active form that does all that magic. So once you apply it, it has to go through this conversion process, and retinol works much more slowly. It's way gentler on the skin, and with regular use, it's good for improving skin texture and all the things I mentioned. Now, tretinoin, on the other hand, is a prescription strength version of retinol, and it's already in that active form of retinoic acid. So it doesn't need to be converted by the skin. It essentially goes to work instantly. This makes it much more potent, much more effective, and you can see results a lot faster. I started seeing a noticeable difference after using it for about a month. However, because it's stronger, it can cause more irritation, it can cause more redness, more dryness, more peeling, especially when you first start using it. So if you are completely new to tretinoin, I'd recommend you start out with a small dosage, like a 0.01 or 0.02%. Use it every other day until your skin gets used to it. Now, this may take a few weeks, but the benefits are 1000% worth it. I've been on it for about 3 months now, and I've currently worked my way up to a 0.035% strength prescription. And in a few months, I would love to increase that again to 0.05%. If there was any magic ingredient that I would recommend, if you could do one thing to change your skincare routine, I mean, obviously I would recommend two things, SPF and tretinoin, but this one is the magic one, right? Definitely use it at night because it can make your skin a little more sensitive to the sun if you put it on during the day. So use it at night. And I usually sandwich it between a cleanser and a moisturizer. So my nighttime routine is to apply tretinoin and then apply a moisturizer, a nighttime moisturizer. There are other skincare tactics I incorporate. Again, I mentioned double cleansing, exfoliating serums, eye creams. I can talk about these in another video because it gets more into the terms of just like clear skin and acne. But in terms of anti-aging, incorporating a daily SPF and tretinoin has made the biggest difference to my skin. Next, let's talk about diet and fitness. So the two areas that I focus on regarding fitness are strength and VO2 max. The data are clear. At least all the data that I have studied and looked at, all the experts I've listened to, clearly show that strength and VO2 max are the two best things you can improve to improve your overall quality of life and prevent the onset of the most common diseases and all-cause mortalities. For strength, I lift 4 days a week, focus primarily on compound lifts with a mix of some isolation lifts as well. Mainly I'm focusing on volume. So low repetitions, high volume. What that might look like is instead of lifting 3 sets of 10 on a lift, I might do something like 10 sets of 3, right? This significantly increases your ability to push more weight. You can push a lot more weight for 3 reps than you can for 10 reps, but 10 sets of 3 and 3 sets of 10 are still equally 30 reps overall. You're just getting significantly more total volume by increasing the weight and reducing the total number of reps. And then each week I'll focus on progressively overloading that volume. So I'll either change the weight or I'll change the rep scheme. There's a whole slew of different things you can do to not plateau and to push forward and progressively overload. And my 1 rep maxes have significantly improved since changing to this low rep focused style of lifting and getting much stronger. And in turn, I've seen quite a bit of hypertrophy. Now, I'll link to the specific program that I follow in the description if anyone would like to try it out. I highly recommend it. To show you some results, I've gone from being roughly 205 with 25% body fat to being 205 around 12% body fat. So I have effectively, through this program and through this type of lifting, built muscle and burned fat simultaneously through training and diet. And I'll get to diet in a second. But when it comes to improving VO2 max, I do cardio 4 to 5 times a week. I will do 80% of my workouts in the zone 2, or basically, if you're not familiar with zones, an RPE, a rate of perceived exertion around 2 or 3 on a scale of 10. So basically my litmus test is if I can carry a conversation while I'm jogging, that's where I want to be. I finally found that elusive zone 2 pace. It should be obvious that you're exercising. If I was talking to someone on the phone, it wouldn't just be like I'm talking to you now. It would be, I would be breathing a little bit heavier, but I could still carry the conversation. That's where I want to be. The other 20% of my workouts are interval training, where I push up into the 80 to 90% of my max heart rate. I try to stay there for anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, and I'll rest an equal amount of time that I'm working, and I'll do that for 3 to 5 sets. So it might be 4 minutes on, 3 minutes off, or it might be 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off. And then I'll keep most of my 4-mile, 5-mile runs in the really slow zone 2 pace, and then I'll try to push that mileage once a week and slowly increase it. So maybe it's 6 miles, then it's 7 miles, then it's 7.5, then it's 8, and I'll try to slowly increase the mileage about 10% each week. This is beneficial because the longer you can keep your blood from getting flooded with lactate and your heart rate from going up, the more efficient your heart is working, the more efficient your body is at using a lipolytic energy system. When you're training in those zones 4 and 5, drive that forces your body to produce larger amounts of lactate, which stimulates adaptations in your muscles. This helps handle the increased production of lactate, so it helps empty it out, and over time your muscles get better at managing lactate and increasing oxygen intake, which really can delay the fatigue during high intensity efforts. So you're able to sustain a higher intensity effort at these higher levels when you're training at 80 to 90% heart rate. So you really need both of these combined to really improve your VO2 max and reduce your resting heart rate. And it's just very good for your cardiovascular system overall. Now, I can geek out on this stuff all day. I don't want this video to run for too long, so please just drop a comment if you'd be interested in my progress or talking about these things on both strength and VO2 max. I'd love to make more videos on it, but in the interest of time, let's keep rolling. So let's talk about diet. The biggest change I've made in my diet is cutting out alcohol. Literally has made the biggest improvement in my life. As I've looked at the research more and more, it's obvious that there's no amount of alcohol that is beneficial, and long-term consumption is directly linked to cancer, to heart disease, to brain shrinkage, cognitive decline. Now look, I'm not an alcohol Nazi. I think the occasional beverage is okay. I have nothing against enjoying a cold one every now and then, but for a long time, I was doing the daily, 1 to 2 glasses of wine a day, wine downs after work, and that's gone. That's gone from my life forever now. I will not be returning to that. This has made the biggest impact on my life, not only in losing fat, but pretty much every other part of my life has benefited from cutting out alcohol. For example, cutting out alcohol has also helped my skin look younger. I have less redness, I have less baggy eyes. It's improved my sleep quality, so I have much more energy the next day, which leads to more effective workouts, which when all of this compounds over time, it helps improve my strength and my VO2 max, right? So alcohol also lowers testosterone. And since cutting out alcohol, I've had my test levels checked and they're back up high. I recently took a blood test. My current T levels were around 740 nanograms per deciliter. This means I have much more energy, I have better workouts, which leads to more effective muscle protein synthesis. It's just all around been a positive impact on my life. Now, I don't track my calories super religiously. I am aware of portions, and I have tracked calories in the past long enough, like weighing things on the scale, to know that I'm kind of approaching my limit. If I want to stay in a deficit, I shouldn't portion more than this. And I stop eating way before I feel super full. The only macro that I do track religiously is total protein intake, right? I'm a big stickler for getting 0.8 to 1 grams of protein per pound of body weight that I have. Other than that, I just make sure I'm drinking plenty of water. I'm eating whole nutrient dense foods like eggs, beef, chicken, fish, colorful vegetables, potatoes, and fruit, and I make sure I'm getting plenty of fiber. Dates are amazing for getting fiber, and they're also great for like a pre-workout just to get some carbohydrates in your system. Avocados are one of the best sources of fiber for me as well. So combined with dates and avocados, it's really easy to hit your fiber intake. I've also recently become obsessed with Force of Nature. They make the grass-fed ground bison and ground venison, which blends that ground meat with ground heart and ground liver. It is chock full of essential vitamins and minerals, and it has excellent macros to really help me hit my daily protein requirement. The amazing thing about doing all this is that I'm able to enjoy a treat guilt-free when 80% of the time my diet is locked in. So if my daughter comes up to me and like, "Daddy, can we go get ice cream?" Absolutely. I am not saying no to that. So doing this really does allow kind of the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time locked in, you can indulge. 20% of the time, you'll be just fine. Sleep has also been a huge factor. I'm definitely huge on sleep. I track all of it on my Whoop, and I make sure to follow Whoop's recommended sleep schedule every single night for optimal peak performance the next day. Over the last 6 months, I have been averaging 98% sleep performance, which Whoop measures by not only duration of sleep, but also sleep consistency, which is going to bed and waking up at the same times. This is just as important as sleep duration to allow your body to recover properly. So let's jump to supplements. When it comes into supplements, I really take the ones that help me support my strength and VO2 max goals, right? So the main ones that I take are grass-fed whey protein powder, helps me hit my daily protein intake. I take 8 to 10 grams of creatine per day. I know 5 grams is normally the recommended amount for muscle strength and benefits, but there's also a ton of other cognitive benefits of creatine. So I have increased that amount to about 8 to 10 grams per day. No, it has not led to hair loss. I know a lot of people have connected creatine supplementation and hair loss. I'm currently not experiencing that. I also have covered that myth on this channel before. The other supplement I take is a daily multivitamin. Now, I know there are tons more supplements you can take for anti-aging. I know there's rapamycin and metformin, which those are not supplements technically, they're prescribed medications. But just take a quick peek at Brian Johnson's website and you can see how many supplements there are out there for longevity and what you should or should not be taking. But the limiting factor for me is that I just don't want to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars a month on supplements that might have a 1 to 2% impact. I'd rather focus on the 20% of changes that I can make in my life that's going to yield 80% of the results. And supplement wise, for me, that's protein, creatine, multivitamins, and maybe like a carbohydrate electrolyte supplement before I go out and do a long run. These are affordable enough that most everyone can find quality ones for a good price. If you're curious on the exact ones that I take the Jocko Creatine, Transparent Labs, I love their grass-fed whey isolate, and BPN, I love their strong multivitamin. I also love Rituals multivitamin. There are other things that I'd love to incorporate eventually into the protocol. I'd love to try like red light therapy, those red light masks on my face. I'd love to do a daily sauna before bed, a daily cold plunge each morning. We'll get there. I'd also like to actually measure my aging pace and look at it on an epigenetic, like one of those Dunedin pace clocks. But until then, these changes have had a major positive impact on my life. My mood is better. My skin is looking younger. I have much more energy daily. I can show up as my best self for my wife and daughter. And I would say that that is the biggest win out of all of this. Anyways, this video is going on too long, so I hope you found this valuable. Leave a comment if you like these types of videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.